Hey everyone, it's Sarah here. Welcome back to Never Out of Books. Today I'm wrapping up Victober and also doing another wrap up for my Fall Into Reading Challenge. And also there's a couple books for Curious Adventures that I finished in October that I would love to talk about. But first and foremost, I did it. I read Dombey and Son and I loved it. Oh, this was so good. Highly recommend. This book is definitely a Dickens novel. I will throw that out, obviously. It is very wordy. That would be the only downside that I could think of for this book, was the wordiness. I struggle with that a lot. Like sometimes there's a little bit of lost in translation, I feel like, where I'm like, okay, wait, what happened? There were so many words that I lost what was actually going on. But this follows Mr. Dombey, who has two children, a daughter first, who he pays no attention to, and then his wife dies having his son, and apparently fulfills her glorious purpose of having given an heir to Mr. Dombey, and that was all her purpose was. He dotes on his son, who is a very sensitive child, and his daughter, on the other hand, is a very smart child, and he gives her no attention at all. So, being that it's a Dickens novel, like I knew something with his son was going to happen. I had a few theories as to what it was going to be, but I did not expect it to happen, something to happen so soon in the book. Of course, being Dickens, there is a large cast of other characters that we also follow their lives and how they relate to the Dombeys. I mean, I've only read 3 Dickens novels, so bear with me, but this is my favorite, definitely, by far. I always thought Dickens novels were inherently horrible and depressing, where everyone dies at the end sort of books, and I'm being proved wrong, which is good because it makes me want to read more Dickens, but this was a very hopeful book. And I appreciated that. It was very good. Please read it if you haven't. That was also for my Fall Into Reading Challenge as well. I wanted to read that as my classic. So for my Fall Into Reading Challenge, I picked up some other books because I finished Dombey and Son like halfway through the month. It did take me the first half of the month. I read The Clergyman's Wife by Molly Greeley. This is a Pride and Prejudice after story, and it is about Charlotte Lucas and her marriage to the annoying Mr. Collins. I don't read a lot of these books, but this came in a book box. There was no good way for this book to end. She's married to this clergyman who she doesn't love, and she, realizing that a clergyman's wife has to go and be with the flock, not just the rich people of the flock, but also the poor people of the flock. She falls in love with someone. You're rooting for her, but there's no good way for it to end. And so this was kind of a depressing book, to be honest. And my surprise love for the Fall Into Reading Challenge I was a little iffy on, and that was Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. I loved this. This was great. This follows Theodora. It is set in the 1930s, and Theodora is being raised a little bit differently than other girls. Her father is an adventurer and archaeologist sort of person, and he goes missing looking for the rings of Vlad the Impaler. And she's a troublemaker. She falls into all sorts of issues, and then Huck comes along, who she knew before, and they end up having to try to find these rings in order to find her father. So this is like an adventure, I would say, a romance. It definitely has some interesting elements. So she believes in all of the lore of all peoples. So she believes in ghosts. She believes in all the creepy things that happen. She believes in that, and he is like, no, that does not exist. Goes in a very interesting direction with everything, and I really liked it. For a contemporary and a romance, I switched it up from what I said I was going to because I really felt like finishing the series, which is The Firefighters of Station 5 by Joe Davies. Line of Fire, Ride the Fire. These are romantic suspense firefighter books. They're about, because there's levels of romantic suspense, and these are about even with the romance part and the suspense part. But they kind of feed into one another at this point. You're kind of getting the king, what is it, the kingpin? The king, I don't know. Like, you're getting to the high up of why all this arson is happening and why things are going wrong with like all these other people. And so that's kind of why I decided I wanted to read them. And I got in a really romancy mood, so I was feeling it. Both of these were completely enjoyable books, and I'm glad that I finished the series. I will say that they tend to be a bit steamier than I like, so just like be forewarned if you're a person who doesn't like sex in your books. There's totally sex in here. And then they changed things up again because I needed an audiobook. And so to read a book with the diverse characters, and I didn't know that they did have diverse characters in this book, but I bowed to pressure and I read the On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. They're a writing duo. I haven't gotten along with their books so far, the ones that I've read. This one was an exception. I really enjoyed this. This follows Olive and Ethan. Her twin sister married his brother, and then the whole wedding party got food poisoning because they ate the buffet. And Ethan has a phobia for buffets. He thinks they're disgusting, and she has a shellfish allergy, so they were the only two who had separately prepared meals. And so they end up going on the honeymoon. I don't like hate to love romances that are like strict hate, like actual hate to love. There was still romantic tension there, even though they didn't like each other. And it was more of like a misunderstanding to love romance. It was very fun. I do like that kind of romance. Diversity-wise, Olive and her sister and their big family are Hispanic. So for my curious adventures, I read Move Your DNA. This is a book by Katie Bowman. I use this for read a book about an activity and then do it because right now with everything being locked down, there's not a lot of activities that I want to read about and do. Like, I know how to knit. I don't really feel like doing it right now. Like, I was like, this'll do. So she is a natural movement person and movement, which is something that I'm actually very interested in, and maintaining your movement and your emotion. And did I do it? Yes, I did some of her exercises to see how poor my range of motion and things are. I'm not too bad because I am a barefoot sort of believer person, so I have some things going for me, but if movement and like even injury reduction and things like that are interesting to you, this will be interesting, because I have a goal. As I get older, I always want to be able to get off the ground if I fall down. And following her instructions will make it so that you can do that. I do not want to be an I fall and I can't get up person. Another one of the prompts was to read about a local celebrity for my curious adventures. The library is now open, so I was able to grab Kid Gloves by Lucy Kisley. I don't know. All I know is that she went to school here and was born here. I don't know if she actually still lives here, but this ended up being, it wasn't what I expected. It ended up being kind of her pregnancy and birth story, but I'm counting it. And it was delightful, but I like to read about things like that. So she had a very complicated pregnancy and life. She is more well known for her graphic novel Relish, about cooking, because that's kind of more what she's known for, I think. So my current update for where I'm at starting of November for these two challenges. So for Curious Adventures, I only have one more nonfiction book to read, and it's something I'm going to read for Nonfiction November. So I will have completed that. And for my Fall Into Reading Challenge, I still have a few more books to read. I have 4 more challenges to fulfill for Fall Into Reading. It should be doable. And I will have completed my challenges. I have read other books, but I'm going to do a separate wrap-up because I have actually quite a few books that I read that were not for any challenges. And I have been doing basically reading challenges in month-long and 3-month-long and different reading challenges since, I want to say, August. So there are some books that didn't fit for that, and I hope to wrap them up at the end of November so that December I can get back to more normal monthly wrap-ups. And so that is my goal. Hopefully I stick to it. And I will talk to you all later. I hope you're reading something wonderful. Enjoy your nonfiction this month if you're participating in Nonfiction November. And interested to hear thoughts on Dombey and Son if anyone's read it, because that was pretty impressive a book, and I feel really proud for finishing it. So I will talk to you later. Bye.